The NBA right now has some of the most talented and well-rounded centers in league history, and obviously players like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid come to mind. But before the arrival of these two guys, there was a 3 to 4 year period where DeMarcus Cousins was dominating the game, and at his peak, I think DeMarcus' skill set and overall game was on par with what we're seeing from elite centers today. Now, when looking back at Boogie's game, the first thing we have to go over is his scoring in the post. At 6'10 and 270, Cousins was pretty much impossible to move down low. If you let him establish any kind of position in the paint or on the block, it was going to be an easy catch and finish. And on top of that strength down low, Boogie was also elite at reading the defense and creating scoring angles before he catches. You'll see Zaza Pachulia here trying to front Cousins, but watch how easily he gets moved all the way outside the paint, creating all this space behind Cousins for this lob pass. And while Cousins was never the tallest or longest post player, he was still able to make up for it with his strength and low center of gravity compared to other post players. You'll see him here being guarded by the towering Brook Lopez. And watch how Cousins is going to simply turn towards the baseline and move Lopez out of the deep paint. Now, on top of his lumbering bully ball post game, Cousins also had pretty good touch on these extended out jump hooks and push shots, where he had the strength and control to elevate through contact and put up these buttery soft shots at the rim. When creating these looks, Cousins was also great at using his physicality to create space, where he initiates contact to get the defense off balance, taking away their verticality to effect these jump hooks. You'll see him here going up against the taller and more lengthy Anthony Davis. And notice how Boogie is going to again throw his inside shoulder into his chest, which takes away Davis's base and allows Boogie to get this baby hook off over him. We can see the same thing here against Steven Adams, where Cousins first rips, attacks his body to get him off balance, to then elevate up for this push shot. Now overall, Boogie never had much craft or overall depth to his post game. Pretty much all his offense came from him playing physical and forcing up looks through contact. And that was more than enough to make him one of the best on the block scorers in the league. But what I think really separated Cousins was on top of his strength, he was also a really good overall athlete.
Cousins, beautiful move by DeMarcus.
First, Boogie had really good quickness for his size, where he could surprise the defense and create clean blow-bys. We'll see the defense here throw this double team at him, but watch how easily Boogie is going to turn towards the baseline to both beat his man and get all the way to the rim in one dribble. Back in his early 20s, Boogie also had pretty good quick twitch explosiveness, where if he had open space to attack into, he could pretty easily charge up and play above the rim. So this blend of strength, mobility, and power made Cousins the most difficult one-on-one matchup across the league. But on top of those physical tools, Boogie also had some good on-ball skills, which allowed him to initiate drives out on the perimeter. Off the dribble, I wouldn't say Cousins had the most dynamic handle, but he did have more than enough to cook slower for the bigs out in open space. We'll see Cousins here spotting up at the top of the key, and when he receives the ball, notice how he's going to take one dribble and skip his feet up, which gives him the leverage to load up and get this clean blow by. And when playing with the ball, all Cousins had to do is get the defense on his hip, and from this spot, there's no chance of pushing him off his driving line. On this play, he's going to catch off this handoff. Then he's going to take one dribble and hit this punchy in and out. And once he gets this defender leaning just slightly across to his right, Boogie can immediately pick up and power his way to the basket. When charging his way downhill, Cousins also had really good body control, where he could pick up and explode through gaps, while also using some different strides and euros to create finishing angles. We'll see him here catch and rip hard to his right. And as this weak side defender slides over, Boogie has the control to gather the ball up and step right past him to get this finish on the other side of the rim. I also like this move here, where Cousins is first bulldozing hard with a strong right hand, and when the defense slides and completely walls off his attack, Boogie's got the balance and footwork to pick up this right-left Euro step. This move here is also pretty tough, where Cousins is first going to drop his level and lift his eyes up, setting up this push cross towards the middle. And when he feels this defender's momentum being heavily pulled across the lane, Boogie is going to take a dribble and spin right past him. Now, all of these moves are standard for your typical NBA guard or wing, but Cousins was one of the first players who both possessed the ability to play bully ball down low, while also having the ball skills and body controls to initiate attacks off a live dribble. Now, Cousins also did some of his scoring outside of the paint, where he was a decent outside shooter. In the mid-range, Boogie was never super accurate, but he was still good enough that the defense had to at least step out and respect him, which then feeds back into his attacking game. And what I do love about this version of Cousins is that he didn't settle for these looks in super high volume. These were primarily shots he took to keep the defense honest, and that was also the same way he used his three-point shooting. Again, just using these shots as a leverage to punish the defense for giving him too much space.
Clips by a pair. He'll fire for three. Bingo!
Now, when Cousins got traded to New Orleans in the 2017 season, his three-point volume did take a pretty significant jump from that point, which I think was both because of his new role with the Pelicans, but this was also when his injuries really began to mount up, where DeMarcus would only play in 48 games in the 2018 season, then just 30 games in the 2019 season, to then miss the following year tearing his ACL. So while Cousins did develop into a lethal outside shooter as his career went on, I still feel like his overall offensive peak was with the Kings, where physically he had the ability to overwhelm pretty much any post defender on the block, while also having the on-ball skills and control to attack off a live dribble, plus being able to punish soft coverages with his outside shooting. And then most importantly, he was also consistently healthy for the Kings. Now, when switching over and looking at Boogie's defense, this is where I think the conversation gets a little bit murky. Obviously, as Cousins aged, he did turn into a below average defender, where his lack of mobility made him a real liability against spaced out NBA offenses. But when looking back at his film in Sacramento, I do think people commonly overlook just how good of a defender DeMarcus was, where he had the build to hold his ground against pretty much any post player, plus the verticality to be a really good rim protector. And when looking back at these clips, I was pretty surprised how athletic DeMarcus was defensively, having the timing to swat shots in transition, and the quickness to cover ground in the half court, and put himself in position to make plays on the ball. You'll see him here initially step out and show on the screen, and when the ball gets passed back to his man, Boogie has the coordination to swivel his hips, to then scramble down and meet his man at the rim. We'll see DJ Augustine make a nice change of pace move here, by first slowing down, to then explode and attack Boogie's top foot. But again, notice how Cousins has the control to rotate his hips and shoot up to swap this finish. So in the modern NBA, we're seeing more centers take on more responsibility on offense, and the traditional role of big men just posting up, setting screens and getting rebounds is pretty much over. And DeMarcus Cousins was one of the first big men to really have a complete inside-out scoring game, being one of the best post players in the league, having the ability to space the floor, while also having the bat to create offense off the dribble. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think of Boogie's game. The Kid's here.